Today is a very special day. What's special today? Prabhupada sailed for America. Before we start that, I want to congratulate Devi Shakti Mataji for having this international book house. I guess it's international book house. You have Prabhupada's books in almost every major language. I'm sure Prabhupada will be very pleased. I hope we have enough customers to keep the shop busy. So today, this very special day, is the day that Prabhupada sailed from Calcutta to the West. Prabhupada met his spiritual master in 1922. Prabhupada's father, whose name was Gormon Day, was a very pious man. Prabhupada said he was a middle-class businessman. No, can we get a little higher? Then I have to bend. Okay? Prabhupada said he was a business middle-class man. But he had great affection to serve sadhus. And Prabhupada said he did not discriminate whether someone was a genuine sadhu or a fake. So Prabhupada had a lot of exposure to sadhus, and he wasn't so impressed by these sadhus. In 1922, Prabhupada had a friend whose name was some Mr. Mukherjee. And that friend of Prabhupada said, I want you to meet a very special sadhu. Prabhupada said, I have met so many sadhus, but I'm not impressed by any of them. But in Prabhupada's words, Prabhupada said, he virtually dragged me to see Bhaktisiddhantaji. And in the very first meeting, Bhaktisiddhantaji could see, here is that devotee who will be able to fulfill Lord Chaitanya's prediction, the holy name will be heard in every town and village of the world. Prior to Bhaktisiddhantaji, later on, Bhaktisiddhantaji had sent many sannyasis to the West, but they didn't succeed. But Prabhupada at that point was in the Grihastha ashram. He was intensively involved in Gandhi's freedom movement. So Prabhupada said, first we should make our country independent, and then we can think of this. But Bhaktisiddhantaji explained what is real independence. Real independence is not political independence, but spiritual independence. Independence from the cycle of more than that. So this thought was planted in Prabhupada's heart. And then Prabhupada was moving around in different cities to establish himself. He had a family to take care. And in 1932, he met Bhaktisiddhantaji in Bombay. Bhaktisiddhantaji had come to install the deities and inaugurate the Gaudiya Math temple. And the Gaudiya Math sannyasis took Prabhupada with them to meet Bhaktisiddhantaji. Of course, Prabhupada had met him earlier too. And they said, Rabbi Chandra has done so much seva in getting this temple started that you should make him the president of the local branch. And Bhaktisiddhantaji said, no, let him continue the way he is, and at the appropriate time, he will do the needful. In 1936, 2 weeks before Bhaktisiddhantaji departed, Prabhupada had written to him saying that, you have so many sannyasi disciples who are rendering such valuable service to you. I am not able to do much. So what is your instruction for me? And Bhaktisiddhantaji responded by repeating the instruction he gave in 1922. to take this message to the Western world. So this was planted in Prabhupada's heart, and he continued to pursue, and eventually took Vanaprastha and then later on Sannyasa. After he took Vanaprastha, he was still traveling in India. He established the League of Devotees. Recently we celebrated the anniversary of the inauguration of ISKCON. The 7 purposes that are mentioned in the memorandum were exactly the same that Prabhupada gave to the devotees in Jhansi. And Prabhupada was constantly meditating how to go to America. That was his prime goal. And at that time, India had just recovered from being a British colony, and most of the Indians, to them the first goal in life was to go to England. Prabhupada wasn't thinking of England. He said, first let's go to America. And he explored different procedures, different routes via Japan, via Europe. And it was a struggle. Prabhupada wanted to get the first canto of the Bhagavatam translated and printed before he took his trip to the West. Prabhupada didn't want to go to America empty-handed. He wanted to take some books which could be used as weapons to preach. So Prabhupada printed first canto part 1, reciting in Radha temple, typing on a broken typewriter. If you ever saw that typewriter, you would throw it away. Typing on a broken typewriter, taking a third-class compartment train from Mathura to Delhi, then going to the printer, buying the paper. Prior to this, Prabhupada had done the translation work, and plus collecting donations to print it. He didn't have the money to print. He was printing with small printers who gave him credit. And so this way Prabhupada printed first canto part 1. And after it was printed, he took the opportunity to present it to important dignitaries like the Prime Minister of India, Radha Krishna, Zakir Hussain, etc. And Prabhupada had to also go and sell it. It was virtually a one-man army. And he sold some to the educational institutions, the American embassy for about 16 sets for the Library of Congress. So Prabhupada had, with great difficulty, done first canto part 1, 2, 3. And after the third one was done, he thought that now he has all the weapons necessary to defeat any argument. Prabhupada had great faith in the Bhagavatam. He had published a pamphlet in which the Bhagavatam was glorified. It was my mission, isn't it? My mission. And he had, Prabhupada's dream at that time was there was 60-volume Bhagavatam set. So Prabhupada got a brochure printed. But now the question was, how to travel? Plane travel was very expensive by economic standards of those at that time. And he approached many people. They said, no, it's too expensive. I can't do it. And then many sadhus said, sadhus should not go abroad. They were traditional Hindus. Anyway, Prabhupada was determined. So Prabhupada's search for support took him to Mrs. Maharaji. Prior to this, Mrs. Maharaji was a pious lady who resided by coincidence very near the Hare Krishna temple in Juhu. Her house was just 2 blocks away. And when Prabhupada would go to see her, he would often pass by the Hare Krishna land, which was at that time a jungle. And Prabhupada at that time didn't have money to live, money to eat, but still he meditated that if Krishna ever gave him that land, he would build a temple for him. That was his desire and prediction. So, Srimati Maharaji had helped Prabhupada print the first canto part 3. One Prabhupada had gone to her office and the secretary said, "She's too busy. She doesn't have time." And Prabhupada said, "Okay, I'll just sit in the staircase." But she has to eventually go home by the staircase. So Prabhupada sat in the staircase doing japa for 5 hours. And then when she was going home in the evening, her secretary's name was Mr. 𝐃𝐢𝐬𝐭𝐫𝐚𝐜𝐿. So she asked 𝐃𝐢𝐬𝐭𝐫𝐚, "Who is that sadhu sitting here?" He said, "He's the same sadhu you helped print the Bhagavatam, and he wants to see you." So she called Prabhupada home the next day. And Prabhupada told her, "I want to go to America to take Lord Chaitanya's message." She said, "You're so old, at this age, you may have a heart attack. You've never been abroad." Prabhupada had never seen snow before. But Prabhupada persisted. He said, "Don't worry, even if you have to die." And when she saw that Prabhupada was so determined to go, she finally gave in. And she said, "Okay, I can arrange a berth for you in a cargo ship." What was that cargo ship called? If that Jaladuta was still there, the owners would have become millionaires. They could have broken it and sold a small piece as souvenir. But unfortunately, they smashed it before ISKCON got established. Or maybe after. Because Jaladuta is virtually a household word in ISKCON all over the world. So, she said, "I'll give you a berth in a cargo ship." And she was a pious lady, so she took with her, she wanted the captain of the ship to be a pious person, and she told him to carry extra vegetables and grains for Prabhupada. Prabhupada had no money. He would walk from the Scindia colony in Bombay, where he was residing, to the Andheri railway station. Walk, not even take the bus. You know why? Well, he didn't have any money. Let's see this example. We devotees in ISKCON get so spoiled, we can't move a step forward without having a car. But Prabhupada used to walk to save because he didn't have money. So, Mrs. Maharaji, she arranged for Prabhupada's passage. Prabhupada reached Calcutta 2 weeks before he was going to sail. And in the meantime, Prabhupada had completed translating the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto. He had with him 200 sets of the first canto that he was taking with him to America for distribution. So 𝐃𝐢𝐬𝐭𝐫𝐚𝐜 bought Prabhupada clothes worth 500 rupees, and then Prabhupada arrived in Calcutta 2 weeks before his departure. Prabhupada originally stayed in Calcutta, but now he was returning to Calcutta as a sannyasi. So he didn't want to stay with any of his relatives, and he stayed in a dharamsala. And he was preparing to go to the West. Prabhupada had met one Mr. Bhattacharya in Lucknow. Bhattacharya was a professional singer, and the governor of UP had met Prabhupada at a program in Radha temple. Prabhupada had invited him. And then later in Lucknow, there was a program in the governor's house where he was doing kirtan, and Prabhupada gave the lecture. So when he arrived in Calcutta, he stayed in a dharamsala. He contacted this Mr. Bhattacharya, and according to Bhattacharya's version, they rented a taxi and they would go to different publishing houses, print like different newspapers, and Prabhupada wanted his departure from India to be a news item. You see. So Prabhupada personally went to the newspapers with Mr. Bhattacharya. All of them were smiling when they met Prabhupada, but none of them published anything. There was only one small Bengali journal that printed Prabhupada's departure. So Prabhupada came to Calcutta. His goal was to get his trip covered. Then he went to Mayapur, offered obeisances to his Guru Maharaja's Samadhi, and then came back to Calcutta. So Prabhupada sailed on the Jaladuta, and the ship departed at 9 a.m. in the morning. And according to Vrindavana Day's version, he took Prabhupada to the port, and when Prabhupada arrived at the ship harbor, no worker had even arrived. But Prabhupada was so anxious to go. He arrived 2 hours before departure, and all the gates, everything was closed. And finally, on August 13, 1965, at 9 a.m., the ship departed. And Prabhupada's books were sent directly to Sri Lanka. So this was Prabhupada's dream, to sail to America, which he finally did in 1965. And Pandya and his wife took care of Prabhupada. Next day was Janamashmi, and then Prabhupada's Vyas Puja. And Prabhupada took with him a Bengali version of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And he read that Chaitanya Charitamrita Bengali version on the way. Probably you often hear Prabhupada had 40 rupees with him, isn't it? Yeah. But the story that we have is from Prabhupada's son. That 40 rupees Prabhupada did not take. As he was leaving Calcutta port, his Vrindavana Day was there. He came to see him off. Prabhupada said, "This money will not have any utility once I go abroad. So you take it." So that in summary is our presentation today. So Prabhupada's dream eventually became true. And we know how Prabhupada went to the West, established Krishna consciousness, which he took every corner of the globe. So Prabhupada came. Okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.